lion is known as the king of the jungle. He is more social than other big cats. He is not averse to killing other predators. The leopard is an agile and stealthy rival. He boasts an opportunistic hunting style. He hunts down and consumes any animal he can catch. The cheetah is the swiftest hunter in Africa, but is sometimes considered vulnerable. He will purr very loudly when content.
Very good! Yes!
Kyalami on the outskirts of Johannesburg is a new track for the A1GP drivers, so who better to take us around this famous circuit than race commentator John Watson, who shared his many experiences with James Hinchcliffe.
So John, you're probably the most experienced driver in the paddock around Kyalami, but it looked a lot different back when you raced. And turn 5 that we're walking into right now, that was one of the corners that it's actually still the same as when you were here.
Yeah, maybe we call this corner Sunset, and I mean, really, you were hanging on by the fingernails. In my day, it was a corner of, it was all about forearms and muscles and hanging on to the car. Today, it's about, can you keep your head and your neck on your shoulders, because it's going to be about lateral Gs. It's going to be a tough corner. It
certainly is, and not only is it so fast, it's also very long in radius. So I think setup is going to be very important here, and there's going to be a lot of potential to lose or gain time through this corner.
But it's going to be a late apex, because on the exit of the corner, you've got to go quickly from left back to the right to get lined up for the barbecue corner, which is the following corner.
Now, John, just as you come up over turn 7 here, it certainly is a breathtaking view, but when you're driving up over this corner, that's not what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at these apexes.
Very much so, and with our new A1GP car with Ferrari power, it's going to be a totally different corner to the corner I drove whatever number of years ago it is.
Let's not talk about that.
I mean, for me, it was all about rock and roll, controlling the car, going one way, then back the other way, and taking a set. The current car, very stiffly sprung, very little roll in the car, like a little sort of roller skate. And before you know it, you'll be squirting up the hill, flat out, up into turns 8 and 9.
What you're saying is it's easier to drive the car through this section now than it would have been back then? Is that what you're saying, John?
Let me just say, I would be as quick today as I was then.
Okay, fair enough.
Or maybe not. So let's follow Adrian Zarg and Team South Africa round the 15-turn, 4.26 kilometre circuit. Turn 1, flat out. Turn 2 should be flat out, but going into turn 3 takes a little bit more care. Immediately on the exit, hard on the brakes into turn 4. We're back on the original Kyalami circuit. I know this part of the racetrack very well indeed. It leads into turn 5. I used to call that Sunset Corner. Adrian Zarg, he's exploring a line I never knew existed. He makes it out into turn 6. Hard on the brakes, still on the old circuit, still old surface you're running on. Then accelerate down to turn 7 and 8. This was the old S's. It changes as you come out of them because you now climb directly up, looking skywards. Braking into turns 9 and 10 is difficult, and turn 10 itself very slippery on the exit. So gentle on the throttle, and then you dive down the mine shaft. That's this part of the racetrack. A 1 and 8 decline, flat out through turns 11, then hard on the brakes and under the bridge into turn 12. From here on in, it's neat and tidy. Don't overdrive the car. You can run the curve, but be careful with the throttle pedal. Into turns 12 and 13, slow right, slow to the left, and then the final burst of speed down to turn 15, and you're back onto the start-finish straight. But remember, easy on the throttle if you want a good lap. 300 meters to go before the start-finish line. Is it a quick one? But in the shade, it's actually quite cool, and that's one of the issues that exist around the racetrack.
We're all set for qualifying to get underway here, and it is, interestingly, the man who was setting the pace on Friday and has been quick all weekend, Daniel Morad for Lebanon, who's going to be the first one out on circuit, and he's going to be followed by Marco Andretti for Team USA. So interesting that Daniel Morad has decided to go out so early, John.
And Marco Andretti is very keen to get ahead of him. He does not want to be behind another car. He wants chalk on the racetrack. Now that's going to be a problem for everybody. That's the first time they'll come across that, and that's from some of the support events that have been here at Kyalami running over the weekend. And that will be a danger zone for everybody on there. I'm assuming they're on brand new tyres. Everybody most likely will run them in this first sprint qualifying. So that's going to be something these two cars, Lebanon and Team USA, must keep an eye out on it.
Switzerland waiting, and most of the other teams taking it patiently, as we tend to expect, but it's interesting that those two have gone for it early. Just a quick run through the drivers and any changes to the normal lineup. We've got John Martin for Australia, Felipe Guimarães for Brazil, Hopin Tung for China, but he did have an accident this morning, so we'll wait to see whether they've got the car ready. There is Michael Ammermuller driving for Germany. This is the first time we've seen the German car in this season 4, so great to have Germany, the season 2 winners, back. Nicolas Prost is driving for France, by the way, this weekend. Philippe Albuquerque here driving for Portugal. We've got used to the pace that he's been showing in recent events. Danny Watts is driving for Great Britain. Unfortunately, as we heard, Indonesia is not going to make it out. It would have been Zahir Ali taking his first ever qualifying run, but it's not going to happen. And Narain Carter-Cairns driving for India. Adam Carroll, of course, for the series leaders, Team Ireland. And there is a very important guest, that is Felipe Massa, of course, Ferrari Formula 1 driver, the man who came so close to winning the 2008 Formula 1 World Championship.
Looks totally relaxed and delighted to be here. He's going to give us a demonstration at some point in, we believe, a road Ferrari, probably a 430 Scuderia, and that'll be pretty exciting, knowing Felipe's exploits in anything with 4 wheels.
Oh, onto a hot lap, and Daniel Morad straight away looking fast, but a little bit leery over that cement dust or chalk dust that's been put down, but he's gathered it all together. You look at the graphic at the bottom of the screen, and if they're on their power boost lap, you'll see that little marker light up in green. It's not happening at the moment, and these two guys are not using power boost, which is pretty much as expected. Unlikely anyone's going to use it in this first segment.
No, and I think probably most people will have learned from Malaysia. They're probably going to save it for the second segment of feature race qualifying, because that's most likely when the track will be at its quickest, and they therefore want to take advantage of that power boost.
So Marco Andretti, the man who lost out on points in New Zealand after the race, because he did get a penalty for crossing the white line on the exit of the pits, but he's had a podium finish already this year and wants to get back into a point scoring position.
Marco Andretti 1.2 seconds slower in that first sector than Lebanon. Just coming through the second sector now. Lebanon has gone through in a 31.4. Wait for Marco Andretti to make it 32.3. So he's 0.9 of a second. So a good lap so far for Lebanon. A poor lap so far. Look at the slide as he turns in that very tight and difficult turns 13 and 14.
But it may be USA's on a used set of tyres, because I think they used an extra set of tyres this morning, so that could explain a fairly big difference. But we are expecting Lebanon to be quick here and to set the initial pace. Let's see what it is. Across the line goes Daniel Morad. It's a 1:31.244.
And that's a country mile away from where we were this morning. USA coming across the line. There's going to be a 35. Well, I mean, that's, I could have done that.
Well, we'll see how it stacks up at the end of all this. I think that was on a used set of tyres, and they are going to have to wait for the second segment of qualifying to perhaps really show what they can do. He did use a new set in the latter stages of this morning's practice session. So there's Felipe Massa just meeting up with some of the Ferrari guys, and there on the left, Tony Teixeira, the chairman of A1GP, a man who put together this deal for these cars, of course, to be powered by Ferrari in this season 4. And they're the man with a lot of hopes resting on his shoulders. A quick glimpse of Adrian Zhao waiting to come out in Vulindlela, the South African car, of course, and looking for a result here this weekend to really boost their performances of the season. Here we are with Mexico, though, John. It is Salvador Duran. A little note for you history buffs: the first ever pole position here at Kyalami years and years ago was taken by a certain Mexican, Pedro Rodriguez, in a Cooper.
Cooper, but powered by what engine? Maserati!
Very good, right, very good. So, can Mexico repeat the success of Pedro Rodriguez and Salvador Duran? I don't think so, because he's not been showing that sort of pace this weekend.
He's again 1.2 seconds down on Daniel Morad in the Lebanese car. So again, this time comparable to this part of the racetrack to what we saw from Team USA and Marco Andretti. 2.2 seconds down. So definitely the circuit is different to the circuit that they left some hour and a half, 2 hours ago when they finished practice, and drivers are coming in and saying the car is all over the place.
Well, yes, that's right. He's coming down towards the latter stages of the lap. Remember, if you want to watch even more information, go to A1GP.com. All of the timing and scoring is available. He slides out of that last corner. Here comes Mexico across the line, and he goes second quickest, so he's slower than Lebanon, but quicker than USA. But Monaco on a very quick lap.
Pointing that out, Monaco very quick indeed. This is going to, I would say, blitz the Lebanese time. So Clivio Piccioni doing a very strong run. We didn't catch the beginning of the lap. We just saw it on the timing and scoring. But if he comes across this line on 1 minute 30, I think he'll be very happy.
Across the line he comes, and it is. It's a 1:28.802. That's a very quick lap.
Almost matching the time he did this morning.
Good stuff. Now we're on board the Black Beauty. It's Earl Bamber back behind the wheel of the car for this one, and let's just see what New Zealand is going to manage. This is the end of his flying lap. Across the line he comes. He goes second, but it's quite a long way off what Monaco have just done.
Yeah, I mean, Monaco, that was a very good lap. Clivio Piccioni taking advantage of going on that a little bit later, obviously on the new set of tyres. Whether he used power boost, we've not had any indication that he has done so.
No, that's right. Germany third quickest on Michael Ammermuller's return to the series. First time out in the new car powered by Ferrari, and Ammermuller third.
Let's have a look and see what was happening up at turns 13 and 14, and a little bit messy entering in, and just about got away with not clipping the cones. Those cones actually are bolted to the racetrack at that point, so they can get hit and biffed, but they should stay there.
Yes, indeed. So, as I remember, just go to A1GP.com if you want to watch all the timing and scoring, and indeed the telemetry from your favourite car. See what revs they're pulling, what gears they're pulling as they go around the circuit as well. That's on the live dashboard feature at A1GP.com. But John, this car was in a bit of a state this morning.
It certainly was. Into turn 4, Ho Ping Tung got it all wrong, went off the track and drove the car into the tower wall on the outside of turn 4, damaged the right front suspension, the nose, the front wing. The car had to be stripped right down, cleaned out, back on track. This is the first lap that he's had a chance to drive this car since he had that accident this morning. Yeah, but he was going well in practice, so Ho Ping Tung was very confident after that. The question is, has he knocked that confidence by suffering it off this morning? He hit the wall pretty hard. Well, he's wishing and hoping he hasn't. Well, he's hoping, but we'll see whether he's back in the car after Frankie drove it in New Zealand, of course. But this time it's his opportunity to show what he can do. It will have hurt the confidence to have had that incident. Danny Watt's another one who had a less severe incident this morning and lost a lot of valuable track time in the British car. So both guys have now got to rebuild that confidence. Yeah, Danny said to me this morning that after the incident, and just the car, the feel, the back end stability isn't there. Hopefully they'll get that rectified for qualifying. Oh, on the back end slides, kicks the dust at the exit of the corner, comes across start-finish line, goes fourth on a 1:31.142. Big range of times we're seeing in this first segment of qualifying. Malaysia about to cross the line. Remember, this is a brand new engine that's just done one installation lap, third quickest. For Faraz Fauzi, a 1:30.7, but it's still Monaco very much quicker than anybody else, a full 1.3 seconds faster than anyone else. And what's India up to? Well, Lorraine gets it all wrong into the chicane, and he's had to, effectively, the lap is wasted. It's not going to count for anything. So once again, Lorraine Carthagena, the ultimate entertainer, but not at the right time when he wanted to get a lap in and get something solid on the board. That's right. I should think he'll have that time removed. He's gone 7th. So it's irrelevant. So let's look at what happened to him. He overshot, presumably. Yeah, usual thing. Too late in the brakes, couldn't turn in. That's the escape route. Now, if you gain by taking that further in time or by position, here's the onboard shot. He knew he wasn't going to make it. He got the car turned away from going over the gravel and the grass, but nevertheless, it's, well, for nothing. Watch this, man. Your own Blake Millen, quickest this morning. He raced here in November in one of the local events. He knows this track better than any other driver on the track right now. And we're riding with the telemetry. Remember, you can see this on the dashboard feature yourself as well at A1GP.com, but we're watching it on screen. And keep an eye now as he comes up to the hairpin at the top of the hill, West Bank corner. The revs drop away and then really begin to build. And it's steep downhill here. The car is accelerating like crazy down this section into what's called mineshaft. Look at how narrow it appears to the driver as he comes through here, putting high G and then hard on the brakes again. So into turn 12, or 13 it is now down. These final two quick lefts and rights, and then back on to start finish straight. Your own Blake Mullen, fast all weekend so far. Can he now convert it into the fastest time in this session? He's a pole winner already this year. The very first meeting at Zandvoort on home turf, your own Blake Mullen was on pole position, and that's what he's going to try and do here at Kyalami. But is this enough to beat Monaco's time? No, he goes second by just
.098. Great lap, but not enough to go fastest.
Brazil comes across, they go third quickest. Good run, Philippe Gomares. We've got Ireland, Australia, France, South Africa, Italy, Switzerland, and Great Britain all on track. Ireland comes across. What are they going to do? Go third quickest.
So the series leaders, third fastest, but beaten at the moment by Monaco and Netherlands. South Africa on track. Oh, he's a bit wide. He has to really fight the steering wheel as he comes out of the final corner. Adrian Zhao crosses the line. He's fifth. And behind him, we've got a few others still to come through. France have come through in fourth place. What can Neil Yarni do? Reigning title holders, Switzerland. Let's see where this puts them. Into the top spot. Switzerland take it from Monaco.
Well, we didn't see that lap. Came out of the box, but coming onto pit straight, even he struggled to keep control of the car under acceleration. Now waiting for Portugal. Could be quickest on that second sector. Just 0.1 of a second below the time we've now seen from Switzerland. That's 28.687. That's what, half a second slower than the best we had this morning.
Great Britain have gone into 7th place, so Danny Watts finding a bit more confidence there with the car. But you're right, watch Portugal, Philippe Albuquerque. He is in good shape here, and the team are feeling pretty confident. But has he found the pace he needs here to beat Neil Yarni's time? It's going to be a pretty close run through. Yes, he's done it. He's gone quickest. What a good start to qualifying. But remember, there's another segment of qualifying to go for the sprint race. But 0.3 of a second, John. That was a magic lap by Philippe Albuquerque.
That was a very, very controlled lap. But a very useful lap because Philippe Albuquerque, the last car out on a flying lap, got a clear track, had the track at its best, used the tyres, used whatever else he had available to him to maximum effect, and has taken provisional pole by 3.380 of a second, and that's quite comfortable. He'll be very happy indeed to go back into the pits and sit back and watch and see what people do in the second sprint qualifying, which will be starting just under about 4 minutes, I think.
So let's look at the lineup after the first segment. It's Portugal on top from Switzerland, Monaco well up, then the Netherlands, Ireland 5th fastest, France 6th, then South Africa ahead of Great Britain, with Brazil in the top 10, with Italy right behind. Then New Zealand 11th, Malaysia only 12th, Germany 13th on their comeback, Australia 14th fastest, China 15th, and then Lebanon down in 16th. So that strategy of going out early didn't really work for Daniel Murad. Carter Cahan, of course, well down 17th, Duran 18th, Marco Andretti for USA 19th, and no time for Indonesia. And just a quick reminder, nobody used the power boost in that first segment of qualifying. There's a brief pause while we wait for the teams to get ready for the second session of qualifying, but it is brief. There's not much time for the teams to make any adjustments. Monaco, John, very fast in that one. Can they hold on to a top 3 spot, do you think?
I think it's dependent on who has used which tyre in that first run and who's got the fresh set of tyres available for the second run. So you see the Swiss car has been into scrutineering just to check eligibility of rings and various other settings, and it's very strictly controlled, a single make formula, so everybody has to comply literally and in every other way to the letter of the regulation.
Fastest car so far though is this one, Team Portugal's Philippe Albuquerque, and he's had plenty of podium positions. He's had that one race victory, but they have yet to take a pole position, and that's not just Philippe himself, but Team Portugal as a team in A1GP have yet to take a pole position. Early days still. They've got another segment of qualifying to go here, and he's going to be chased hard by Switzerland, by Monaco, by Jeroen Blekemolen, I'm sure. And when the power boost comes in, John, on this next lap, if they decide to use it, we don't know if they will. They might save it until the feature race qualifying. But if they choose to use it, it's going to change the speed of approach into some of these corners, and the driver really has to reset his brain on it.
Well, it changes the whole dynamic of how the engine operates. You've got 60 additional horsepower, so that's a big bunch of horsepower, a characteristic change. You've got more RPM, and therefore, as Philippe Albuquerque speaking to the Portuguese team, and delighted to be here and having fun, enjoying it. Not often we see a racing driver walking around the paddock just, you know, relaxing.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Felipe Massa is one of the real nice guys of Formula One, no doubt about it, and certainly last year, what an outstanding season he put in. Let's get down to the pits and get some news, and Hinch, I think you've got some news on Lebanon for us.
Yeah, I do. Well, as you said, it is pretty standard that most teams were going to use a sticker set for that run, but one team that didn't was Lebanon. They had a slight fuel issue at the end of the last practice session. They went out early with an old set of tires to make sure that fuel problem was gone, so he still has 3 new sets of tires for the next 3 sessions.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. The second segment of qualifying is due to get underway in just a few seconds' time. And once again, it's Marco Andretti. Now, he's definitely got new tyres on there, John. You can see the shine.
Yes, I mean, we know that the car that goes out first on the racetrack inevitably will not end up quickest in these qualifying segments. But it's a clear track for Marco Andretti, and all he has to do is focus on just doing that one quick lap. We did know he said a great lap this morning, 28.418, so we know the speed. Commitment certainly is there from this young American driver, but can he do it when it really matters to put Team USA further up the grid? Currently they're 19th out of 20.
So third generation Andretti motor racing driver, and Marco very fired up with this A1GP program, as well as doing his American race program. He'll be turning 22 years old in just a few weeks' time. And a young man who enjoys his tennis, enjoys his motorbikes, but most prefers, of course, to get behind the wheel of a fast racing car, and that's what he's doing in A1GP. He's on his outlap at the moment, but wait to see whether he decides to use power boost in this sprint race qualifying, or will he save it? Now, a lot of them will, of course, save it for the feature race, but we'll have to see what they all choose to do.
What the teams have got to make a judgment on is if they use it for the sprint qualifying, that'll give them an advantage clearly. But remember, a victory in a sprint race doesn't offer the same points as a victory in the feature race. So do you gamble and try and get your maximum number of points in the sprint race, knowing that you mightn't be in a position to do so in the feature race? So that's the judgment teams have got to make here this weekend.
Yeah, and that's all part of the fun of the game. Now, we've been listening in a little bit on the radio, and Neil Yarney's been complaining of terrible understeer with his car, and that's interesting. He's not happy with the performance of the car.
Well, we noted the car towards the end of the session this morning did not look as stable or as good as it always does look, particularly up at the high part of the racetrack into turns 9 and 10. And we saw coming off the exit of turn 15 in that first qualifying segment, the back end of the car breaking loose.
Oh, Marco Andretti having to fight a little bit to control it, but that was well done. The car over the bumps just got a little bit loose on him, but he held it all together. Notice he's not on power boost, so he's saving the big power boost and extra horsepower for the feature race qualifying coming up. He's going to do what he can in the sprint race qualifying without the extra power. So how's the first split looking? Well, we haven't got a lot to compare it against at the moment, but it looks pretty fast.
So down into the S's, get the car in, tidy, then cut back the other way, then Maximo, back end of the car just wobbling a little bit under acceleration. You can't see the apex or any part of turn 9 until you get up there. This is turn 9, and then it sort of conjoins into 10 as you make the drop down the mine shaft. What a great name for a straight that leads into a fantastic flat-out corner.
Yeah, this flat-out left-hander, they're pulling big G's through there, and then hard onto the brakes once again into this fairly straightforward right-hander, and then up to the quite fiddly chicane, but the chicane introduced to slow the cars down on the approach to the last bend, so it has to be dealt with. You've got to be tidy through here. That's not looking bad at all from Andretti.
No, it's going to put him somewhere into the top 10, but whether that will be good enough by the time we get to the end of the session, just 7 minutes remaining. But for Marco Andretti, first out, new tyres this run, and that's what he can do in terms of overall time.
He goes across the line, he goes 11th quickest, and that's not really as much as he would have hoped for. I think they'll be disappointed with that one.
Yeah, I would say that was, the potential was there to get into the top 10. Whether you would sustain it over the period of, what, 6 minutes and 40 seconds that are now remaining is another matter, but being outside of them in 11th, well, I think Marco and Team USA would like to have seen better.
So we've gone for the all-black helmet colour for Earl Bamber there in Black Beauty, and we'll see how the New Zealander gets on. He's currently sitting 12th quickest after that first segment of qualifying, and remember, it's your fastest time from either of these two segments that counts towards the sprint race grid. Ho Pin Tong, they're waiting to come back out. He's down in 16th place, having suffered that off this morning, but the team have got the car back out. That's the important thing, and he's in the game to qualify here. Whether he uses power boost now or not, well, we won't know until they get out on track. There's Felipe Guimarães, currently Brazil sitting just inside the top 10. I think they'll be pretty happy with that, but to hold on to it, they're going to have to go even quicker, I'm sure.
Well, Clivia Piccioni, I just wonder, having seen such a good job in that first run, third quickest, is he going to take a punt and run power boost? But we're not seeing any indication of that on this lap, so still no one has engaged that extra 60 horsepower, and it looks like pretty much everybody's going to save it for the feature qualifying.
Yeah, I bet somebody will go for it though. Somebody, one of the lower teams perhaps, who might not expect such a good result, they'll go for it and see what they can do. Here we go through the fast turn 5.
And that looked very good indeed. Clivia Piccioni has been very strong through turns 5, obviously through turn 6, back onto, or still on in fact, part of the old circuit, and then through the S's. Just fractionally down on the overall fastest time, still that with Portugal of 1:28.307.
Back up the hill once again, all the horsepower pulling him up that hill and then hard onto the brakes. Tight into the hairpin, feeding the throttle open, flicking the paddles behind the steering wheel as he changes up through the gears, and see whether Monaco are going to be able to improve on their third best time so far. He's looking good.
Yes, indeed, good time.
Sector time is up, as you saw, by just over 1/10 of a second on Portugal's time from the first segment of qualifying. You would expect that. You'd expect these quick guys to be going a little faster. The track is still cleaning up. As I say that, he puts the mud down for the next car coming through.
Yeah, and probably a little bit clumsy going into the chicane, and not so bad coming out, but good exit out of the final turn. But has he got enough momentum and speed to take him ahead of Portugal?
Across the line, he goes second, he gains one there over Switzerland, and he's 0.1 of a second behind Hubertus Bolson, who drove the car in the rookie session here on Friday. He's the joint seat holder, and he looks pretty happy about that.
I should think so too, but just catching the curb, or catching the grass, in fact, I mean, you're talking about tenths or maybe hundredths of seconds lost. Again, this is the onboard shot, just trying to, clobber that cone. And whether you make up time or you lose time, I suspect by getting a small amount of dust onto your tyres, you lose fractions.
Power boost being used here, John. It's Germany. Now that makes sense because Michael Ammenmuller, in his first outing with the A1GP car, it's worth a punt, isn't it? He's gone for power boost on this lap. Let's see what it brings him.
Oh yes, it's a good gamble. Germany in for the first time in the 4th series of A1GP. Michael Ammenmuller, who won a race in the 3rd series for Germany. He knows his way around a racing car, a very quick driver.
14th at the moment, so where is this going to put him? That's going to be the interesting thing.
Half a second down.
Yeah, that's disappointing because on power boost we were seeing improvements of 3/4 to a second this morning, nearly a second improvement on cars on power boost, so that's surprising that he's not quicker than this already on the sector times.
Well, he may have other issues, and the biggest issue of all is actually the handling of a car. The horsepower is of no use if you can't make it work. Michael Ammenmuller improved in terms of what he was doing so far in the first sector, but not sufficiently quick. 0.6 of a second down. I mean, that's still good enough to get him into the top 10 at this current moment.
Well, he's a race winner in last season's A1GP. He won at Zhuhai. That was his one and only victory so far. Some other strong results. Of course, he got involved in a bit of controversial action with some of the other drivers as well. Let's see what this lap is going to be. It's not going to be enough to snatch away the top spot, but it certainly will move him up from where he is at the moment. Across the line goes Germany, and he's up to 8th, but that's disappointing, really.
Yeah, I think that power boost, depending on the state of the tyres you had. Now we've got the charge coming out. We've got, what, 2.5 minutes of the session remaining, and the bulk of the field are now filing their way out onto racetrack. As is always the case, find a clear part of the racetrack for the entire duration of the lap, well, you'll be very lucky.
So let's see who can get a clear lap in here. Malaysia currently on circuit, not using the power boost in this sprint race qualifying. He's down in 14th at the moment, needs to find a bit of time here to move up the order. Faraz Fawzi.
He's done it.
Great, up to 5th. Remember, that's a brand new engine that only had done 1 installation lap, and Ferrari normally want them to do at least 5 installation laps before they are pushed that hard. I think they'll be pretty satisfied with that.
I think it's a very good effort by Faraz Fawzi to do so. Limited amount of running, didn't get much time this morning. So let's go, look and see what we've got. This is Fawzi as he comes back just on his in lap.
So he's moved up, but there are still lots of others to put in another lap here, see if they can change their position. Brazil going on to the flying lap here. Felipe Guimaraes could pull something out of the bag. He's been looking very committed and very brave through turns 1 and 2, up to turn 3. Little bit of a wiggle, but okay.
We haven't seen Lebanon, but they're the other team that are currently using power boost. An error coming out of those 2 tight corners.
That's interesting because that was on his out lap.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Let's have a look and see what Felipe Guimaraes just. Some drivers push very hard on the out lap, particularly in that final sector, to ensure that the tyre is at its maximum. We've now got Netherlands using power boost as well.
That's
Netherlands
interesting.
Currently 4th quickest. They've decided they want to have a pop at taking pole for the sprint race.
Well, you have to say that Netherlands would be favourites using power boost to take pole position. Now, will Portugal respond to that, or will they save themselves for the next one? It'd be very interesting to see.
My thoughts is that they'll save it for the feature. They want those maximum points.
But Lebanon also on the power boost, so it could be quite a tussle. Maybe Lebanon and Netherlands are going to be the 2 battling for pole position now. It's going to be a close. Lebanon definitely up on time, but Ireland's gone a great lap. The Netherlands, I've just looked at the split times behind. Netherlands are half a second up using power boost over everybody else.
This is a potential, a momentary pole sitter. This is the Lebanon Daniel Marad. Portugal's time 28.307. as we watch Brazil coming up to complete their lap.
Yeah, Brazil has just been pushed out of the top 10. They may reclaim a top 10 spot as Guimarães comes across the line here. Nope, stays the 11th, but it's these guys, Lebanon. Oh, he must have made a mistake there.
Something went wrong. It sounds like it's all gone very flat.
Oh, yeah, engine sounded funny as he came past us.
And he came across the start finish line. Now, Ireland, they've got the chance to take that pole position. Adam Carroll comes out of the chicane, down to this little short straight into turn 15. So Adam Carroll, quickest in the first sector. Not the quickest in the second sector, but might be good enough to drag him into the front 2 rows of the grid. Third position.
He goes third, and that's without using power boost, so that's pretty impressive. Now let's see what Netherlands can do. This should be the fastest time.
It is.
It's provisional pole for Jeroen Bleekemolen, a 1:27.7, by far the fastest lap seen this weekend.
Switzerland come across second place for Neil Yanni without power boost.
That's crucial. That's a brilliant lap without power boost by Yanni. Now, who else is going to change the order? Anybody here? Portugal have been pushed back to third now, and they are out on circuit at the moment. France, sixth, India up to fifth. And that was using power boost. So Lorraine Carter-Cairn has moved India up to fifth, but by using the power boost. And Portugal not using power boost here, interestingly. Portugal have been pushed back to third. They'll probably stay there. No, they go second. Great effort by Albuquerque.
Very good indeed again without power boost. So strong run from Portugal to consolidate that front row. But it's this team, the Netherlands, who've taken the pole position for the sprint race.
And I wonder now, yeah, he's punching the air. Jeroen Bleekemolen, his second pole position of the season. And well done to the Dutch team, but looking at how few of their major rivals used power boost, it's going to make life very tough for them when it comes to the feature race. But he's got a very, very quick car, a 1:27.7, faster using power boost than anyone else by over 0.3 of a second. Fascinating to see, though, that some of the others that did use power boost didn't perhaps go quite as quickly as we might have expected. India up to fifth, and one or two others. Let's check through it then. Netherlands, fastest. They've used their power boost, but they've taken pole for the sprint race. Portugal will line up on the front row. It'll be Switzerland and Monaco on the second, and then India and Ireland, the series leaders, will start sixth. France will up. Nicholas Prost quietly doing a good job in seventh, ahead of South Africa. Then Malaysia and Italy. Germany outside the top 10, but using power boost. New Zealand 12th. Danny Watts for Great Britain in 13th place, still with the extra power to use. Brazil 14th, then China in 15th place. Mexico next up, then USA. They're followed by Lebanon, who did use the power boost then, of course, followed by Australia, and no time, of course, for Indonesia. We've seen the Netherlands take pole for the sprint race. We've seen Portugal match their best ever qualifying position by going second, but Portugal's still looking for their first ever pole position, and they have saved their power boost. So will that still happen? We'll have to wait and see here. Again, it's an early run for Team USA. Very, very interesting.
I mean, truthfully, I can't see the logic of doing this. I mean, it gives Marco Andretti obviously a clear run on the circuit, allows him to focus exclusively on the driving. But, you know, we know that by the time you get to the end of a 10-minute segment, strange as it may seem, tracks do pick up and do improve in terms of lap time.
Let's just listen in on some of the radio communication that's been going on with the Dutch car and their pole position.
Made a mistake. I braked too late before turn 6. Totally missed the corner, so I should have gone, well, at least a 10 faster, so we're pretty much sorted there as well. I was pretty happy with the car, but still I don't feel as much grip as this morning, somehow, but you just get better by yourself because you get in the better rhythm, but yeah, the balance is still the same, that's for sure, and it's definitely not bad.
Interesting feedback there from Jeroen Bleekemolen. The balance is not bad. That's about as good as the driver gets, really.
Well, I mean, you talk about the conditions between this morning and this afternoon. That's due to the change of temperature, track temperature, ambient temperature. Depends where the sun shines on this racetrack. We are, in effect, on the side of a hill, and at one part of the racetrack, at one part of the day, it's warmer than it is in others. As we look down into
Lebanon.
the car, well, I mean...
So was that flatness of the engine, was that an exhaust breakage or a...
There's certainly a primary pipe, whether that's one that's been broken, one that has broken. But I mean, imagine putting your hand in there. Those pipes are still very hot indeed. But again, just reflecting back for Daniel Murad, what disappointment having done all the good work to be let down by something out of his control.
So USA now on to a quick lap. Now I think he's probably going to be on a used set of tyres on this one, because we do think that they used that extra set this morning. So it may not be, again, a particularly representative run. And not surprisingly, of course, he's not using the power boost, because he will save his power boost for the final 10 minutes.
Well, we know that Marco Andretti is capable of doing a fast lap around Kyalami, because he did it this morning. He did it at 1:28.4 this morning, and that would have put him right in the mix of the sprint race had he been able to repeat that lap time. But using one set of tyres in the morning to achieve that meant that he's down to 2 brand new sets, and he's got to use the best of the rest for some of those qualifying segments.
Absolutely, and as we've seen, once you get a quick lap out of a set of tyres on this surface, you don't get much more to play with. The best certainly only lasts for 1 lap, and after that you're fighting for a lack of grip. So Andretti will be aware of that, and maybe just using this as experience this lap. That's probably why maybe he has gone out so early again in this session, and maybe we'll see him come out a bit later in session 4. I would think we would, but who knows.
Well, if it's all being used to build up to give him the best opportunity in the 4th segment of qualifying, again, if he opts to come out early, he will put himself slightly on the back foot. So whether he then hangs back and waits until 3 minutes to go before he gets out on track, that's out of character if he does, but it may work to his advantage in doing so.
So this lap is not going to be a massively fast one, I don't think. Let's just see, presumably going to be in the 1:30s, would we say? Yeah, 1:30.655. So we've seen times in the 1:27s, of course, fastest so far today. That was with power boost with the Netherlands. So wait and see on USA. Don't count them out of the picture yet, but they didn't qualify particularly well for the sprint race. They've got it all to do in the feature race. On board now with Team Monaco's Clivio Piccioni, and again, most of the cars will probably be on a used set of tyres. You can see there, John, that's a used set.
Oh yes, South Africa got a used set. On board with Piccioni, I suspect that's very much the same. Just interesting to look down at the teams that did use power boost, and Germany, India, Italy and Lebanon and Netherlands. 5 out of the 20 teams used power boost, and I would imagine not too many are going to opt to run it in this first part of the 2-part qualifying for the feature race.
No, I can't imagine anybody will, unless they think something very unforeseen is going to happen. So let's just see what Clivio Piccioni gets up to on his flying lap. He's about to cross the line and get the clock running, and into this almost flat out. Maybe in qualifying on new tyres, this is absolutely flat out.
Yeah, turn 2 is difficult, because turn 1 is just a curve, but then you've got to get the car positioned to turn into turn 2, and it is bumpy in various parts of the approach to the turn. So you have to hang on to that one through turn 2.
So the elevation change just dropping down slightly into the right-hander here.
There's barely a lift going into turn 5 there. I mean, it's as we watched there yesterday from the outside of the circuit, we saw the drivers creeping closer and closer. 0.2 of a second up already on the time for Team USA. Now that is not relevant to what we've seen from sprint qualifying with power boost, 27.7, and probably not expecting to see too many times approaching that in this, the first of the 2 segments for the feature race.
And this is the highest part of the circuit now, before the big drop down the hill, and the car really getting a tremendous surge of acceleration down this hill, down through Mineshaft. Here we are on board with him through the flat-out left-hander.
0.7 of a second up. So there will be an improvement in time, significant improvement in time, and the only time we've yet seen, which is Team USA at 1:30.6. So all somewhat irrelevant, and in some cases maybe a lot of the teams just going through the motions of running in this first part of feature qualifying. And they will wait until the final one when they get power boost and they get their final set of fresh rubber.
Yep, that's when it's really going to come alive once again. Across the line then for Monaco. He does beat that United States time that was previously set, 1:29.8. Well, that's everybody's just saving themselves now to see what they can do in the final 10 minutes. There's still only 4 minutes left of this session, so it's going to get quite busy out there, I would think, any moment. Team Germany on track. Michael Ammermuller, who was one of the few teams who decided to use power boost in that sprint race qualifying, didn't really perhaps make the most of it, but remember, he's still getting used to it. Power boost, probably one of the first times he's used it at all was, well, it would have been the first time this morning, so it's only the second time he's ever tried it.
Yeah, I mean, it is all new to Michael Ammermuller. Of course, using power boost in qualifying is something he's never experienced before. It's only been introduced once in this series, and that was in Malaysia, and at that point Germany weren't present.
But it's great to have them back. Obviously you can see it's all hands on deck to get the car ready for this weekend, and they haven't had a chance to fully livery it up, but it's great to have them back. The Season 2 title winners with Nico Hulkenberg doing an absolutely magnificent job and winning indeed both races at Durban that year. So Germany have had plenty of success in the South African round of the series before. Michael Ammermuller will be up against it a bit this weekend, trying to compete against the experience of the other teams. And the guys working on this car, they've probably been thrown together at the last moment as well.
Yes, the other thing is this is going to turn out to be a very physical race. Aside from the ambient and track temperatures, it's going to be a hard work circuit, and it has been the tradition at Kyalami that as you go into the race, the duration, particularly in the longer race, finding and maintaining balance and grip has always been a feature here, and cars will change character significantly over the longer duration of the feature race in particular.
South Africa's car is fired up and ready to come out. Once again, Adrian Zhao to see what he can do here at Kyalami at Gauteng. For the qualifying session, it is the GoGP.org A1GP Gauteng, and a huge amount of enthusiasm in the area. Now this is looking pretty quick for this segment of qualifying. Faraz Fawzi really dialing it in well.
Yeah, half a second quicker than Monaco, they're 29.8. But again, we know what's potentially capable, 27.7 from the Netherlands. So practice or qualifying in this segment of the feature race, unless somebody opts to use their new tyres and power boost and try and sneak in an advantage. But I tend to think everybody's just going to go out, go through the motions, just reacquaint themselves with the circuit. He goes quickest on a 29.032. Expect to see something approaching 2 seconds quicker than that in that final segment of qualifying, which is going to come up in about 6.5 minutes.
Oh, that was not a good sign from the guys on the Lebanese car. Looks as though they may not be getting that car back out in this session. We'll have to wait and see. But there's more work going on around the exhaust pipe area. Italy in a little bit of difficulty there. That's Mexico, sorry, yes. Salvador Duran just overdriving the corner a little bit there and managed to recover it fairly well.
So Salvador Duran dives down the mine shaft, under brakes into this. Well, relatively straightforward, but it's important in that you're neat and tidy. Turn 12, then up to 13 and 14 again. It's all about being neat and tidy. You can take a little bit of curve in the inside, but you've got to remember that if you clobber one of those curves with your wing, that'll be the end of the lap.
So down towards the end of the lap then, and we've got a lot of cars out there, all out there in the final minute or so of qualifying for this third segment, with another final segment still to come. He goes across the line, goes second quickest to Malaysia, so not a bad lap despite that little error we saw. Netherlands on a lap as well at the moment, the pole winners for the sprint race, but it's Brazil that's just gone quickest at a 1:28.8. Felipe Guimarães has taken top spot, but remember, we are expecting all these times to be improved in the final segment of qualifying.
So Netherlands, but it's Australia right now, just looking there. Australia's showing to be strongest of all. Now, whether they've got a set of new tyres but not using power boost, or just John Martin's got himself hooked up, Netherlands second quickest behind Brazil. Yeah,
this is a good lap, as you say, by John Martin of Australia, and whether they've got a different strategy to everybody else, let's see what kind of time it is. He should go quicker than Brazil. How low into the 1:28s will he be? That's the question. He takes the checkered flag, and we've still got a few cars to finish their laps. He goes quickest, it's a 1:28.4.
So Australia, once again, find themselves at the top of the timing and scoring, but Ireland on board. So let's see what Adam Carroll, as he makes his way down into turn 12.
Yes, he finds himself 6th on the grid for the sprint race, but he's saved his powder for the final segment of qualifying in the feature race. He will be going for pole, I'm sure. Brilliant double pole position last time out in New Zealand in Taupo, and he won't be a double pole this time, but let's just see what this lap is like as he crosses the line. He goes second. Australia maintain the top spot by just over a 10th. Here comes Adrian Zhao, crosses the line. He's only 10th, but remember, we've got a final segment to go, which is really the determining one.
Switzerland goes second, just behind Australia by 0.082 of a second.
Yep, so they're close again, and here's Narain Karthikeyan. Let's hope he got through the chicane without taking the shortcut. Team India used their power boost earlier. He comes in there, way
16,
down.
big mistake, I think. Well, let's say a small one for Narain. Portugal, once again, Felipe Albuquerque. So not necessarily showing particularly strong times. It was a split time, was showing a 10th of a second up around the racetrack, but in terms of overall positions, can they go quickest again? Fourth for Portugal.
Fourth fastest, but that's okay for now, because it's still the final 10 minutes, the big push to come, when the new tyres will be bolted on, when the power boost button will be hit by the majority, not all, but the majority of drivers and then we'll see if anybody can go even quicker than Jeroen Bleekemolen managed with that 1 minute 27.7 for the sprint race. So as things stand, and if we had a sudden rainstorm now, Australia would start on pole position for the feature race, but wait and see what happens, because there could be some huge changes. Nonetheless, that's a good effort by John Martin, who has gradually been improving his qualifying performances. And I think Alan Jones, seat holder for Team Australia, will be pleased, but now can he do it when it matters in the next
I think
session?
it's quite interesting. We've got John Travis in the Australia garage with Alan Jones. John Travis designed the A1GP car in conjunction with Ferrari, and Paul Cherry, who also looks after the franchises of A1GP. Now remember, we're going to the Gold Coast at the start of Series 5. That's exciting.
Let's just round up the first feature qualifying segment, and it's Australia on top from Switzerland, very close between them. Then Ireland and Portugal, Brazil well up there in 5th place, Netherlands 6th, Malaysia and Great Britain, then France and China just getting into the top 10 for Ho Pin Tung, Mexico 11th, and then Monaco 12th, South Africa right behind, followed by New Zealand, then Italy and Germany, with India and USA completing their times, but no times for Indonesia, and this time as well, I'm afraid, for old Daniel Murad, did not get out on circuit. So it's a pretty relaxed frame of mind as people wait to see what's going to happen in the last 10 minutes of qualifying here at Kyalami. We've seen Netherlands take pole for the sprint race. We're now really building up to the climax of this afternoon's action anyway, as we look to qualify for the feature race.
Well, that was a feature I'd never seen at Kyalami. There's a pond.
Hidden away somewhere.
Hidden away. We don't know whereabouts it is, but certainly there is a bit of the wildlife, and there's a lot of wildlife around that you don't want to get close to, in the form of the reptile known as a snake.
That's right, yes, there are supposed to be
in abundance.
Let's get some news from our pit lane reporters once again. Let's get down to Hinch first of all. What can you tell us?
Well, I've just had a quick chat with John Sears, who's the team manager for New Zealand, because Earl Bamber came into this weekend with high hopes, and everybody had high hopes for him. He's been very impressive this season, but struggling right now, down in 14th place so far for the feature race. He's reporting the balance of the cars pretty good. They're just really lacking for grip, and a lot of confused faces and head scratching going on down in New Zealand.
Yeah, thanks for that, James. It is a bit of a surprise to see them so far down at the moment. Diana, what's going on up at your end of the pits?
Hi Ben, yes, I just popped into the Ireland garage to see what was going on a bit earlier actually, because obviously Adam Carroll was sort of a bit down the order sheets as we'd like to see him, I think. It seems that he was struggling a bit under braking, just with the confidence really, and it was just taking time to build that through, and hence that last practice session, he's pulled it back up the sheet, so obviously confidence building there. I think the same thing has happened with Australia. They'd had a bit of, they'd been down the sheets as we could see, and John Martin sort of pulled one back there as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll watch their progress in this final segment that's just coming up. The first visit of A1GP to this famous circuit here this weekend for the GoGP.org A1GP Gauteng. Certainly livening up now as we are ready for this final segment of qualifying to get underway. The green light is on actually now as I speak at the end of the pit lane. They can go out anytime they want now in the next 10 minutes. And there are some young fans getting close to their favourite car. Great to see a lot of enthusiasm from the youngsters for A1GP as ever.
Well, that's a great place to bring a family. Kyalami has always been a very friendly, family-friendly, and again, Marco and a very family-friendly circuit. As Marco once again goes out, and strange that Lebanon's still working.
Yeah, but they're back on the wheels. They're back on the wheels. So
actually got the bodywork on as well, so whatever that issue was, we did see a bit of an exhaust system at the side of the car, but whatever it is, they might well have got that corrected and given Daniel Murad hopefully an opportunity to go out and just consolidate the pace he's been showing all weekend. You see the tailpipe. It's a very short, stubby tailpipe, which comes out of a 4-1 collector on each side of the V8 Ferrari engine.
Yes, and well, let's just hope they have sorted that out, and they will be sending him on his way. He is still potentially very fast, but remember, he's going to have to do it without power boost because he has used his power boost already. Michael Ammermuller, likewise, used the power boost in the sprint race qualifying. Didn't do him a huge favour because he still has qualified just outside the top 10 for that one. So we'll have to see what he can dial himself into here. Again, looks very focused as he prepares to come out on circuit. Portuguese car waiting for its wheels to be fitted, but this is the one that, in a way, we're keeping an eye on, John, because he's been so quick in every segment of qualifying so far.
Yeah, and it's going to be a real fight to get onto the front 2-3 rows of the grid. The majority of the front runners, with the exception of Netherlands, have still got power boost available. The majority of them, I'm sure, have still got a brand new set of rubber, and hopefully we're going to see the true potential of this A1GP car powered by Ferrari around Kyalami very shortly. The only thing is that there's only one car currently on track, and that's Team USA. Marco Andretti has got the racetrack entirely to himself. Nobody's preparing to venture onto the circuit, and this is with power boost.
Yeah, power boost is operative.
Mistake coming out of 4.
Yeah, deep in, wasn't he? And just had run out of road a little bit on the exit. And, well, when you've got power boost on, of course, you're entering corners that little bit quicker. It's easy to overrun the mark. This is looking a little cleaner, a little better at the moment.
So into turn 6, again traction off this corner using the curb on the outside. Such a familiar corner. Anybody who knows about Kyalami will know that the exit of Clubhouse, I call the barbecue, it is Clubhouse, is one of the most famous corners in motor racing annals.
Now let's watch the revs in particular, because with power boost, now this next section coming up is where the revs should really begin to build. He's accelerating from 2nd, 3rd, coming up, 4th, 5th. And the revs, just using that little bit more revs now that the power boost is kicked in. That's where the extra power comes from.
So 240 clicks hard on the brakes into turn 12. So for Marco Andretti, really, this is stand up and deliver. And by going out so early, certainly had a clear track, but any of the previous runs that he's completed have not been sufficiently good, or even approaching the 28.4 he did this morning.
No, that's right. Let's see what this is going to be then. The clock is ticking away, bottom left-hand corner of the screen. It's not going to be that quick. Let's see, it's a 129.4. At the moment, that puts him 12th, but he's in danger of losing several places once everyone else gets out there. So I have to say, qualifying has not gone well for Team USA.
The fact is, they did a time this morning which was about a second quicker than he's just achieved right now, and that will be a disappointment. Again, referring back to the track conditions, he will say the track is not the same. I don't have the same balance. I can't get the same either turn or get the same ability to put power on. That's what you have to learn and what you have to adapt to. And the conditions in Kyalami are very prone as the day moves forward to get changing conditions.
Quite an early outing for Team Monaco again. And as I speak, I've just seen Germany head onto the track, but it's Monaco that's more interesting because remember, they have qualified 4th for the first race of the day tomorrow. That's an excellent effort for Team Monaco. And now, with the power boost operating, let's see what Clivio Piccioni can do. Can he do even better than that?
So into turn 2 and travelling a little bit more quickly than he's done in the previous 3 runs. That extra 60 horsepower available on power boost is noticeable. Does a nice job on the entry and exit out of turn 4 now. Accelerates up into turn 5. Some drivers are thinking they just have to breathe it. Well, there wasn't much of a lift there in my ears.
It sounded good, didn't it? It sounded very committed. Remember, in qualifying, using power boost is different to in the races. In the race, the power boost only lasts the length of time that you go to full throttle when you hit the button, but on the qualifying system, it lasts for the entire lap. So they've got that extra horsepower on every part of the circuit.
Indeed, so Clivio Piccioni up to the highest part of this 4.2 kilometre circuit and now drops down, picking up. So this reminds me of a circuit in Germany called Nürburgring, dropping down the foxhole. There's no compression here at the bottom, 0.8 of a second quicker than the time for Team USA. That's 29.4. That's not, in my view, going to be good enough.
28.4, so it could get him in the 27s. It's going to be a pretty quick lap, I think, isn't it?
Well, against the USA's 29.4, which is the time he did. So let's have a look and see. And I don't think it'll be good enough for pole position, but you never know. It depends what happens to the remaining part of the field with just 4.5 minutes remaining.
Across the line for Monaco. Is he in the 27s? Yes, it's a 1:27.2. It is a very quick lap. It's faster than the Dutch car went earlier in the sprint race qualifying, and they should be well pleased with that. Big eyes for Philippe Albuquerque. That's the new challenge.
Well, absolutely, that was. I mean, I underestimated that lap, and that was a very, very fine run from Clivio Piccioni. Again, clear track and not waiting until the very closing moments. We've got 4 minutes precisely remaining as Clivio Piccioni comes back, and he might well have done the smart thing by getting out when there was nobody else on track and not waiting for those that are going to think that the track is going to be better from this point forward. So there's just going to be too many cars out on track. We've now got Germany and New Zealand on a hot lap, and we've got Malaysia and Brazil on an out lap.
And here comes the car that has taken pole for the sprint race, but of course, remember, is up against it in this one because they've already used their power boost, like Team Germany here, and he's a full 2 seconds down at the split on the new target time of 1:27.2 set by Monaco a few moments ago. So Michael Ammermuller, knowing that he hasn't got the extra horsepower to use, has just got to try and drive a perfect line, keep it as clean as possible, avoid any little mistakes, tucks it into the last corner, gets on the power, but it's not going to drag him up really from where he is in 17th by much. Let's just see, he comes up to 14th, but in danger of losing a few more places again once those guys like Italy, India and maybe Lebanon manage to get out there.
Well, let's look at El Bamber, who was disappointed, 0.233 of a second down, so that's reasonably respectable, more like what we expect for El Bamber. By the way, Team Mexico, for some reason, have transgressed. They're under investigation, but let's go back to Team New Zealand and these final corners before we get on to turn 15.
Yep, he's down to the final part of the lap, as you say, and it's not looking like a bad lap at all. He's used the power boost, but where is it going to put him exactly? Australia currently second quickest from the time earlier. Is this? Yes, he does go second, so not as quick as Monaco, but only slower by 3/10, and that is a big gain by El Bamber.
And also that is the second single fastest lap of the afternoon so far.
Now, Faraz Fawzi could do something special, spectacular if everything works, but I'm not sure this lap is going to be quite enough. He's going to be near them. Let's see, across the line, he goes second. He's beaten New Zealand, and he's only 1/10 of a second slower than Monaco. So another strong run there by Team Malaysia with that brand new engine. And Faraz Fawzi on form. Remember, they led the series after Chengdu to Team Malaysia. They need to get themselves back on track, and that could have been a good lap to do so.
But now we've got the problem, cars.
Brazil is off. He's in the barrier. He rips the rear wing off.
Is that going to be a red flag, or are we going to allow the field to continue? We've got one to red flag the session that effectively is over, and pole position provisionally and may well be confirmed to go to Monaco.
Monaco take pole? I think so, and that means their first ever pole position in their first season of A1GP. Well, they can't quite believe it, but they've done it. Team Monaco, the new team on the block, has taken pole position for the feature race. A little bit of luck on their side because of the timing of the accident, but the clock continues to tick away under red flag conditions, and there is no way that car is going to be cleared out of the way in 1 minute. That means the session is over. Philippe Guimaraes walks away, and good to see that he's unhurt. And there's the smile on the driver's face for Team Monaco. Clivio Piccioni punches the air. Graham Taylor on his left there. He will be over the moon about that. Let's take a look at the accident. This is what happened to Guimaraes. It just went wrong on the second part.
The back end snapped, and in the exit of the S's, there's very little you can do. And he went in heavily backwards, did the rear wing, the rear suspension. No damage, fortunately. Watch again, the back end, he just actually was a little bit too wide on the exit of the corner, too early in the corner, and just caught the dirty outside line. And once he had done that, it was all over for Philippe Guimaraes, and heavy damage, and fortunately no damage to the driver. He's out of the car and uninjured, but he'll be a bit stiff and sore by the time he gets back here tomorrow morning.
So that has mixed the grid up because Monaco's taken pole. Malaysia will start on the front row. New Zealand will be up there as well, and Australia will start fourth. What a bizarre grid that will end up with effectively. And your own Blake Molan, well, he'll start 9th for the second race as a result of the effort that he put in. But my goodness, that was a very dramatic end to the final part of qualifying, and by leaving it late, a lot of people put themselves further down the grid than they would have been. Let's get down and hear from the team manager of Monaco, Graham Taylor. He's talking to Diana.
Graham, you must be delighted with that pole position.
Oh yeah, for sure. For Team Monaco, its first pole position. It took a little bit of strategy. We figured at this circuit, whether all the drivers like it so much that that perhaps there might be a slip up at the end. The fact that there were so few guys used the push to pass for the sprint race just compounded our strategy, and it came to pass that what we did was the right thing.
I mean, Clivio's always been a strong driver. He was strong in British Formula 3, and he's just really been on the pace quite a lot and just been there or thereabouts. Yeah, this championship's tough. You know, there's some very good drivers and some good teams up and down this pit lane. It's our rookie season. We've had flashes of speed all the time, and today we put it all together. Well done. Thank you very much.
So Graham Taylor, Team Monaco have taken pole position here at Kyalami, Gauteng, and what a great performance it is. A bit of a surprise, but Clivio Piccioni was on the pace throughout the day. Remember, he's qualified at 4th place for the sprint race, so he's up there in both races. That was not a pure fluke. He was always going to be one of the major contenders, and by timing their lap to perfection, by putting him out early in that session, they have taken the advantage, and good strategy by the team. Let's take a look at it. This is how they'll line up for the feature race. It'll be Monaco and Malaysia on the front row. Malaysia have a real chance to claw their way back into the championship hunt. New Zealand and Australia, the two great rival nations, will be on the second row, with Switzerland and Ireland, the top two nations in the series, together on row 3. Portugal lost out there. They left it too late. They'll qualify 7th, with Brazil, well, if they fix the car, starting 8th, Netherlands 9th, Great Britain 10th, then France 11th, China 12th, and Mexico will be 13th on the feature race grid, just ahead of the USA. Then Germany, South Africa. I'm afraid Adrian Zaugg didn't manage to get a time in before the red flag came out there, so they way down the field. Italy 17th, India 18th, and then at the back of the grid, it'll be Indonesia and Lebanon.